If you're dreaming of moving to Norway and live here to work, then you're not alone. Since 2020, over 10,000 people from outside of European Union and over 15,000 European Union citizens moved to Norway on a work-related visa and got residency. And after hearing and reading countless stories, I discovered a pattern. Most internationals come here on one of three paths. And in this video, I'm going to break down each of these three paths as well as their pros and cons. If you're new here, hi, my name is Maria and I moved to Norway in 2014. For me, it was quite a process to get all necessary documents because I was moving from country outside of European Union. I got my residence after 2 months and preparation of all the documents took another 3 months. But it was mostly due to bureaucracy in my own country. So if you plan and prepare everything right, your way will be fast and smooth. Let's start with path number 1.
I want watch TV. Now, why do you have a pencil rest there?
Let's start with path number 1, and it's moving to Norway already with the job contract from Norwegian company. This is by far the most direct, most certain, but also the most competitive way to move to Norway. Employers in Norway provide visa sponsorship. Now, what does it mean? That simply means that if you get a job contract, your employer will support the application for your residence permit. In many cases, employer can fill the application for you, file all necessary documents, or help you to do that. Now, of course, because it's the best path, it brings a lot of pros with it. For example, you move here with little uncertainty. You will already know which company you will start to work with, when, which city, etc. And of course, you will know your salary. So that means that you don't have a financial break. And you know when exactly you're gonna start earning an income. You can land and start work almost directly. And depending on the company that is hiring you, you can even benefit from relocation support. Meaning that your flight, your move, and maybe even the first months of your apartment will be paid for. This is a plus, but not a guarantee. And a lot of people also take this path without the relocation support. This path is especially easy for sectors like IT, engineering, oil industry, healthcare, maritime, constructions, logistics. Companies in these sectors are actively recruiting internationally when they cannot fill the positions locally. There is one massive con with this path is that it's difficult to get job interviews when you're living abroad. However, it's not impossible. If you want to get interview, you need to target right platforms, follow Norwegian companies and recruiters on LinkedIn, and maybe even contact companies directly. Also, when applying, make sure you tailor your CV to Norwegian style, mention willingness to relocate, network aggressively, and also check recruiting agencies like Manpower or Udi.no. 70 to 80% of jobs in Norway aren't advertised publicly and come through networks. So join expats group on Facebook and Reddit. Norway is not the easiest market for outsiders, but with preparation, many succeed. The second path is extremely popular, and it's to move to Norway in order to pursue your master degree or MBA and use it as a stepping stone to then find a job afterwards. Unfortunately, from 2023, Norway ended the long-standing free education policy for students from outside of Europe. But this path still has a lot of pros for those who have sufficient funds to provide for themselves. Next to upskilling, the pros of this path is the most masters and MBA programs in Norway are actually taught in English. So you don't need to learn Norwegian straight off the bat. Another pro is that you get a year and a half or 2 of learning Norwegian, which could be a massive advantage for the time before you need to go and look for a job. As well as you are living in Norway, so you get time to understand the work culture, have access to network events, and to use university and their events and their network to potentially find a job after you graduate. As a student in Norway, you are allowed to work part-time up to 20 hours a week, therefore supplementing your income and cost of living. But also, again, gaining crucial real-life work experience in Norway, which is then a stepping stone to find a full-time job afterwards. And after you graduate, you get a special job seeker residence permit for you to be able to stay in Norway and look for a job for up to 12 months. So you graduate, you stay here, and you have really good time to find a job. When it comes to tuition, most public universities charge no or low tuition for most of their programs. So it's a still very big pro if you want to come study from another European Union country. But as I said before, for international non-EU students, Norway introduced fees. Good news is that you can always try and get fully paid or partially paid scholarship from some universities, and therefore don't need to save up much money in advance. MBA programs in Norway are not free and have quite high tuition fees. But in my opinion, this path is especially successful if you have a real work experience beforehand and really use this MBA or master to upskill, because then you have work experience, a super strong degree, presence in Norway, maybe advantage in Norwegian language, and all of this really puts you ahead of the game. If you don't get a scholarship, then you need to prove your finances to get a student visa. At the time of recording, this is roughly 14,000 euros per year for living cost. This amount changes a little every year, and you need to have this per year that you are studying in Norway. So the high tuition will be the biggest con here. But for many master programs in public universities, your tuition is low, and you can get a student loan for living costs from Lånekassen if you're coming to Norway from within European Union. Another con is that, of course, this is a much longer path depending on where you stand in life and career. This could be considered a step back, but often in life we need to step back to then jump 2 or 3 forward. This means you really stop your job search or career for 1-2 years depending on what kind of study you're pursuing. The third path is to move to Norway with the intention to find a job. This means that you first move and then start looking for jobs while you are in Norway. And this is possible in one of 3 different ways. The first will be job-seeking residence permit. This is a permit for up to 6 months for high-skilled professionals from certain countries. Here are the list of those countries. You can feel free to pause. Basically, it's all of the European Union countries and countries who has agreement about visa-free visit to Norway. Biggest pro of this way is that you are on the ground to look for a job. You are already in Norway. You have way higher chances of nailing the interviews and going for interviews here. You can also attend the networking events, job fairs, and just get a feel for the country and explore also which cities are attractive for you to live in. I recommend to not be tied to only one city, because sometimes opportunities are beyond only one place. Unfortunately, you cannot work in Norway while you're on this type of visa. But if you secure a job, you can switch to skilled worker permit without leaving Norway. To get this type of visa, you need to show that you have a sufficient money to cover your living costs, and it needs to be in Norwegian bank account. Now these costs are about 15,000 euro a year, so 155,000 Norwegian kroners. This is for 6 months. The con of this path is that is, of course, a very risky path depending on how you perceive risk and what you don't perceive as a risk. Because there is no job guarantee. There is no guarantee whatsoever. If you are unlucky and you don't find a job within these 6 months, and you also cannot extend this type of visa or find other way to stay, then you will unfortunately have to pack your bags and leave empty-handed. Second option is, again, for people from the countries I mentioned before that has a visa-free entry for 90 days. You're not allowed to work during your stay, but you're always allowed to network, visit different cities and feel the vibes, go to interviews. It gives you more chances to secure a job offer if you would do it remotely sometimes. But in cases of landing the job, you will have to come back to your home country and apply for skilled worker visa with a job offer. Norway doesn't allow to convert tourist visa into residence permit. This way is a high risk and no guarantees. Norwegian companies take a longer periods of time to recruit people usually. You cannot work in Norway during this time, so your living costs need to be fully financed by yourself. Besides this path, you can also look at seasonal worker visa, researcher visa, exchange programs, visa for artists, musicians, journalists, cultural and humanitarian work visas, if you belong to one of these categories. If you plan to move from outside of European Union, all types of visas and residencies for moving to Norway are filled through the immigrational portal called Udi.no. This page is actually made very good and all the information is available in English with explanation to each document they want from you. You can answer a few questions in Wizard and see all available options. If you're still watching, then you're probably considering moving to Norway. And in this video here, I go into details about how much it costs to live in Norway so you can plan your budget before you make a move.